The dust from my brother's pickup truck still hung heavy in the air, a gritty testament to his hasty departure and my sudden, bitter reality. He'd taken the farm, the sprawling acres of prime agricultural land that had been in our family for 5 generations, the very soil that had fed and clothed us. His inheritance, he'd called it, with a smirk that still burned in my memory. Me? I got Grandpa's old John Deere, a relic, a rusty green behemoth that hadn't turned a furrow in years, parked forlornly in the corner of the barn. It was a slap in the face, a cruel joke, a final insult from a brother who'd always seen me as less. I ran a hand over the cold, faded paint of the tractor's hood, the metal rough beneath my fingers. The engine was probably seized, the tires flat, the seat torn. It was a monument to neglect, a symbol of my own perceived worthlessness in the grand scheme of the family legacy. "Well, old friend," I muttered, patting the fender, "looks like it's just you and me." The afternoon sun, a fiery orange ball sinking below the distant tree line, cast long, distorted shadows across the barn floor. Each shadow seemed to mock me, stretching out like a skeletal hand pointing towards my meager inheritance. I felt a familiar ache in my chest, a blend of resentment and a strange, burgeoning curiosity. Grandpa had loved this tractor more than anything, often saying it had more secrets than a politician. He'd spent countless hours tinkering with it, polishing its chrome, talking to it like an old confidant. What secrets could an old tractor hold? I decided then and there, with the last rays of sunlight fading, that I would find out. I'd start with the toolbox, a place Grandpa always kept meticulously organized. The next morning, armed with a can of WD-40 and a wire brush, I approached the John Deere with a new resolve. The air in the barn was cool, carrying the scent of old hay and machine oil. My brother had left the place in a hurry, not even bothering to clean out the barn. The tractor's toolbox, a heavy steel contraption mounted on the side, was caked with years of grime and rust. It looked like it hadn't been opened since Grandpa passed. I sprayed the hinges liberally, the solvent hissing as it cut through the accumulated dirt. The latch was stiff, resisting my efforts, a stubborn guardian of whatever lay within. I grunted, applying more force, my knuckles scraping against the cold metal. Finally, with a groan that echoed through the quiet barn, it sprang open. Inside, it was a jumble of rusty wrenches, dried-up grease tubes, and a few petrified rags. Nothing out of the ordinary, just the usual detritus of a working farm machine. My initial surge of anticipation deflated slightly. "Just as I thought," I mumbled, disappointment creeping in. But as I started to clear out the larger tools, a faint glint caught my eye. It wasn't a tool, nor was it part of the toolbox itself. It was a small, almost imperceptible seam along the bottom, a line that didn't quite match the rough-hewn interior. My heart gave a little thump. Grandpa was a meticulous man, but he was also a man of secrets, a man who believed in hiding things in plain sight. This wasn't just a toolbox, it was a puzzle. I ran my fingers along the seam, feeling a slight give, a subtle difference in texture. My fingers traced the faint outline of the seam again, a barely visible line that ran along the bottom of the toolbox. It felt like a false bottom, a hidden compartment designed to escape casual inspection. The rust and grime had done an excellent job of camouflaging it, making it blend seamlessly with the aged metal. I retrieved a small flathead screwdriver from the pile of tools I'd just removed and began to gently probe the edges. The metal groaned softly under the pressure, a sound that sent a shiver of anticipation down my spine. This wasn't just a random discovery, it felt deliberate, a message left for someone specific. Was it for me? Or was it just another one of Grandpa's eccentricities, a forgotten hiding spot for a spare part or a lucky charm? With a final, determined push, a small section of the bottom panel gave way, revealing a shallow cavity beneath. It wasn't much, barely an inch deep, but it was enough. My breath hitched in my throat. Inside, nestled amongst a thin layer of dust and what looked like dried leaves, was a small, oil-stained canvas pouch. It was tied with a piece of faded twine, the knot tight and secure, as if protecting something precious. The canvas felt old, worn smooth by time and handling. My hands trembled slightly as I reached in, my fingers brushing against the rough fabric. This wasn't a spare wrench. This wasn't a forgotten bolt. This was something important, something Grandpa had gone to great lengths to conceal. The barn, once a place of quiet resignation, now hummed with a palpable tension, a silent witness to my unfolding discovery. My fingers closed around the canvas pouch, pulling it free from its dusty sanctuary. It was heavier than I expected, not just a few papers, but something substantial. The twine, brittle with age, snapped easily as I untied it, releasing a faint, earthy scent that reminded me of Grandpa's workshop. Inside, nestled carefully, were several items. The first was a small, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. Then, a stack of old photographs, faded sepia tones depicting scenes from the farm's early days, faces I barely recognized, and a younger, more vibrant Grandpa. But beneath these, wrapped in a piece of oilcloth, was a thick, legal-sized envelope. It was sealed with a blob of dark red wax, bearing an imprint I couldn't quite make out in the dim light of the barn. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden silence. This wasn't just a collection of mementos. This felt like a deliberate package, a time capsule of sorts. The journal, the photos, they were personal, intimate glimpses into Grandpa's life. But the sealed envelope, that was different. It exuded an air of formality, of official business. My mind raced, trying to connect the dots. Why hide something like this in the toolbox of an old tractor? Why not in a safe or with his lawyer? Grandpa was a man who trusted few, and perhaps even fewer with his most important affairs. The weight of the envelope in my hand felt immense, a tangible link to a past I thought I understood, but now realized was far more complex. The sun, now higher in the sky, cast a beam of light directly onto the envelope, illuminating the faint, almost illegible imprint on the wax seal. With trembling fingers, I carefully broke the wax seal on the envelope. It crumbled under my touch, releasing a faint, musty scent of aged paper. Inside, there wasn't just one document, but several, folded neatly. The top one was a thick, legal-sized sheet, its heading immediately catching my eye. Last Will and Testament. My breath hitched. This wasn't just a will, it was the will, or at least a will. The one my brother had presented, the one that had given him the farm and me the tractor, had been a much simpler document, typed and signed. This one, however, was different. It was handwritten in Grandpa's distinctive, slightly shaky script, dated several years after the one my brother had used to claim his inheritance. My eyes scanned the opening paragraphs, the formal language of bequests and beneficiaries. The words blurred for a moment, my mind struggling to reconcile this discovery with the reality I'd been living. This was a game changer, a seismic shift in the foundation of my family's legacy. The implications were staggering. If this was a later will, then the one my brother had used was invalid. The farm, the very land I'd been told was no longer mine, might still be. A wave of emotions washed over me, disbelief, a surge of hope, and a growing sense of righteous anger. My brother, always the schemer, always looking for an angle. Had he known about this? Had he deliberately suppressed it? The questions swirled, each one more unsettling than the last. The old barn, once a place of quiet solitude, now felt charged with the weight of a profound secret, a truth waiting to be unearthed. My gaze locked onto the date at the top of the handwritten will, October 12, 2018. The will my brother had presented, the one probated and accepted, was dated March 5, 2015. A full 3.5 years separated them. This wasn't a minor oversight. This was a deliberate later instruction from Grandpa. My hands, still holding the document, began to shake uncontrollably. The implications were immense. A later will supersedes all previous ones. This meant the farm, the entire legacy, was not legally my brother's. It meant everything I had been told, everything I had accepted, was a lie. My brother, Mark, had either knowingly withheld this document or had somehow managed to get the earlier will probated without anyone questioning it. I started reading through the clauses, my eyes devouring each word. The language was clear, concise, and unmistakably Grandpa's voice, even in its formal legal phrasing. He detailed specific parcels of land, specific assets, and then, the crucial part, "To my grandson, my name, I bequeath the entirety of the family farm, including all land, structures, and equipment, with the understanding that he will continue its operation and preserve its heritage." A gasp escaped my lips. The farm was mine. It had always been mine, according to Grandpa's true wishes. The old John Deere, my supposed consolation prize, was not just a tractor. It was the vessel that carried my inheritance, the key to unlocking a truth that had been buried for too long. The anger simmered, a slow burn beneath the shock. Mark had not just taken the farm, he had stolen my birthright, my connection to Grandpa, and my future. The weight of the document in my hands felt like a physical burden, yet also a powerful shield. The words, "the entirety of the family farm," echoed in the quiet barn, a stark contrast to the emptiness I'd felt just yesterday. My mind raced, piecing together fragments of memory. Grandpa's cryptic remarks about true intentions, his insistence on teaching me every aspect of farming, even when Mark showed little interest. It all made sense now. He hadn't just given me the tractor as a consolation. He had given me the means to discover my true inheritance, a final, ingenious act of love and trust. The realization brought a fresh wave of emotion, not just anger at Mark, but a profound sense of gratitude and connection to Grandpa. He had known. He had planned this. The legal ramifications were immediate and overwhelming. This wasn't just a family dispute. This was a matter of probate law, of fraud, of a stolen legacy. I needed to act, and quickly. But how? Who could I trust? The legal system felt like a labyrinth, and my brother, with his slick city lawyer, would undoubtedly fight tooth and nail. I looked around the barn at the familiar tools, the dusty corners, the old tractor that had held this secret for so long. This place, once a symbol of my loss, was now a beacon of hope, a testament to Grandpa's foresight. I left a link in the description. Hope you can help our channel grow. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with potential conflict, but for the first time in months, I felt a surge of purpose, a renewed connection to the land and to my grandfather's enduring spirit. Rereading the hidden will, every word seemed to resonate with Grandpa's voice, his values, his deep love for the land. He had meticulously detailed not just the farm's transfer to me, but also specific instructions for its care, for sustainable practices, for preserving the old-growth forest at the back of the property. These were things Mark had no interest in, things he would undoubtedly neglect or sell off for quick profit. The will even included a small separate trust fund for the upkeep of the John Deere, a final sentimental touch that brought a lump to my throat. It wasn't just about the farm, it was about Grandpa's vision, his legacy, and his profound understanding of who among his grandsons would truly honor it. The anger at Mark intensified, a cold, hard knot in my stomach. How could he have done this? Had he truly believed he was entitled to everything? Or had he simply seen an opportunity and seized it, gambling that this later will would never see the light of day? I remembered the day the first will was read, the somber faces, Mark's feigned sympathy as he accepted the farm, my own quiet despair as I accepted the tractor. It all felt like a carefully orchestrated deception now. The air in the barn grew heavy with the weight of this revelation, the scent of old oil and dust mingling with the bitter taste of betrayal. I closed my eyes, picturing Grandpa, his weathered hands, his knowing smile. He had always been a man of integrity, and this hidden will was his final, most powerful act of truth. I spent the rest of the day poring over the hidden will, comparing its phrasing, its specific clauses, and especially its date, against the copy of the earlier will I had. There was no doubt. The later will was not only dated years after the one Mark had used, but it also contained specific, detailed instructions for the farm's future that were entirely absent from the simpler, earlier document. Grandpa's signature on both wills was undeniably his, but the later one showed a slight tremor, a testament to his declining health in his final years, yet his resolve remained clear. The witnesses listed on the hidden will were two longtime neighbors, both pillars of the community, known for their honesty and their close relationship with Grandpa. Their signatures, too, looked authentic. This wasn't a forgery. This was the real deal, Grandpa's final, true wishes. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. Mark hadn't just taken advantage of a legal loophole, he had actively suppressed this document, or at the very least, allowed a false narrative to stand. The farm, the land I had grown up on, the place where my ancestors had toiled and thrived, was rightfully mine. The thought sent a jolt of electricity through me, a mix of exhilaration and dread. Confronting Mark would be messy, painful, and potentially tear our already fractured family apart. But what was the alternative? To let his deception stand? To betray Grandpa's final trust? The sun began to set, painting the barn walls in hues of orange and purple as I wrestled with the enormity of my discovery. The ethical dilemma gnawed at me. On one hand, justice for Grandpa, the rightful inheritance of the farm, and the preservation of his legacy. On the other, the inevitable family war, the public scandal, the potential for irreparable damage to what little familial bond remained. I thought of Grandpa, sitting on the porch swing, his eyes scanning the fields. "A man's word is his bond, son," he'd often say, "but a man's will is his final word." He believed in truth, in doing what was right, no matter the cost. He wouldn't have wanted me to shy away from this. He had hidden the will for a reason, trusting that I, or someone, would eventually find it. I remembered a conversation with him just months before he passed. He'd been unusually quiet, his gaze distant. "Sometimes," he'd said, "the truth needs a little help finding its way out, especially when there are greedy hands trying to bury it." At the time, I hadn't understood the weight of his words. Now, they resonated with chilling clarity. He had foreseen this. He had anticipated Mark's actions, and he had laid a trap, a final ingenious plan to ensure his true wishes were honored. The John Deere, once a symbol of my perceived failure, was now a testament to Grandpa's unwavering faith in me. The decision solidified in my mind. I couldn't let this stand. I owed it to Grandpa, to the farm, and to myself. The first person I thought to confide in was old Silas, Grandpa's best friend and a retired notary public. He lived a few miles down the road, his small, cluttered house a repository of local history and common sense. I drove over, the hidden will carefully tucked into a folder, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Silas, with his weathered face and sharp, knowing eyes, listened patiently as I recounted the entire story, from the John Deere to the discovery of the hidden will. He examined the document meticulously, his brow furrowed in concentration, occasionally nodding slowly. "Well, I'll be damned," he finally said, his voice raspy with age. "Old man Johnson, always full of surprises, and always one step ahead." He confirmed the authenticity of the signatures, recognizing the witnesses immediately. "This here, son, this is as solid as the bedrock under this farm. A later will, properly executed, supersedes any prior one. Mark's got a heap of trouble coming his way." His words, though grim, brought a strange sense of relief, validation. I wasn't crazy. This was real. The weight of responsibility, however, settled even heavier. Silas looked at me, his gaze steady. "You gotta do what's right, boy. For your grandpa. For the farm. It won't be easy, but it's the only way." The quiet resolve in his voice echoed the silent strength of the land around us, a reminder of the enduring principles that guided this rural life. Silas's words had solidified my resolve. Doing what was right meant confronting Mark, meant facing the storm head-on. I spent the next few days preparing, gathering all the documents, making copies, and mentally rehearsing the inevitable confrontation. The farm, now under Mark's temporary stewardship, felt different. I drove past it, the fields looking neglected, the fences in disrepair. It was a stark contrast to Grandpa's meticulous care, a visual testament to Mark's indifference. The sight fueled my determination. This wasn't just about property, it was about stewardship, about honoring a legacy. I decided against a direct, unannounced confrontation. Mark was volatile, and I needed to approach this with a clear head and legal backing. I contacted a lawyer in the nearest town, a no-nonsense woman known for her tenacity in property disputes. She listened intently, her expression growing increasingly serious as I laid out the facts and presented the hidden will. "This is significant," she stated, her voice calm but firm. "We have a strong case for probate fraud and the invalidation of the earlier will. Your brother will have a difficult time explaining this. The legal process would be arduous," she warned, but the evidence was compelling. The John Deere, sitting quietly in my barn, had not just delivered a document. It had delivered a path to justice, a chance to reclaim what was rightfully mine, and to fulfill Grandpa's final, heartfelt wish. The legal battle was exactly as arduous as my lawyer had predicted. Mark, initially defiant and dismissive, quickly realized the gravity of the situation when faced with the undeniable evidence of Grandpa's later will and the testimony of the witnesses. The court proceedings were tense, filled with accusations and counter-accusations, but the truth, meticulously hidden in the John Deere's toolbox, ultimately prevailed. The judge ruled in my favor, invalidating the earlier will and confirming my rightful inheritance of the family farm. The relief that washed over me was immense. A profound sense of justice finally served. Mark, defeated and humiliated, retreated, leaving the farm in a state of disarray. But the land was mine again. The first thing I did was drive the old John Deere out into the fields, its engine sputtering to life with a familiar roar. It wasn't just a tractor anymore. It was a symbol of Grandpa's enduring love, his cleverness, and his unwavering faith in me. As I drove, the setting sun casting long shadows across the freshly turned earth, I felt a deep connection to generations past, a sense of purpose that had been missing for too long. The farm was more than just land. It was a living legacy, a testament to truth and perseverance. The old John Deere, once a bitter consolation prize, had become the most valuable inheritance of all, a silent guardian of my family's true history. If you made it this far, I left a link in the description that will help you a lot and help our channel grow.